Our company is Aqua Research, and we are focusing on developing chlorination solutions primarily, particularly for those in low income settings and healthcare communities and low to middle income countries. So let me page down here.
If you could put it in presentation mode, Rodney.
Okay, well, I'm using the. Okay, let me change to a different PowerPoint. Our focus is on manufacturing, developing technology for the developing world. I'm probably preaching to the choir on some of this, but chlorination is one of the greatest public health achievements of the 20th century. In the United States, for instance, in 1900, the average life expectancy was 47 years old. By 1940, we were chlorinating all the major cities in the United States, and primarily through treatment of drinking water, the life expectancy went to 63 years. It's a 16-year increase. So it's we eliminated typhoid and cholera in the United States, and chlorine continues to play a role in disinfecting drinking water, both in the U.S. and around the world. So it is a standard for drinking water treatment. If you have chlorine in the water, you have a chlorine residual, you have ongoing disinfection in stored water. So it's also the most widely used product for sanitizing and disinfecting surfaces in healthcare facilities. It's used in cooling towers, aquatics, many places, anywhere where chlorine is used. So we're trying to kill bugs. So 1.8 billion people do not have access to safe water. People in low income countries that don't have access to sanitation or chlorination experience very high rates of healthcare acquired infections, nosocomial infection. And there are some countries like access to affordable and reliable chlorine products, particularly with the COVID experience. A lot of healthcare facilities don't have access to chlorine, or it's very short in supply, and remote areas can't get it. So this technologies that we have makes it easy for the user to make his own chlorine. So we're a for-profit company, and our mission is to strengthen the use and supply of chlorine, as I said, in low and middle income countries. So we launched our first product in 2015. I started this company in 2010. And I worked prior to that for 15 years in on-site generation of chlorine, putting chlorine technologies in lots of places around the world. So in disaster, we work in healthcare, utilities, community development, disaster preparedness, disaster relief. We work with a lot of non-government organizations. So our products are now being used in, I'd say, certainly a lot more than 20 countries. And field evaluations we've been doing with some of the leading NGOs demonstrate reliability, convenience, and cost effectiveness of on-site chlorination. And the cost is cheap. It's just salt is the primary feedstock. So we're typically not selling a razor blade, which is replaceable filters or chlorine tablets or things like that. We've developed technologies that people can use from raw sources that they've already got, primarily salt. Everybody in the world that has salt. No matter where I've gone, some of the most remote areas of the world, you can always get salt. Somebody has salt. So we're doing a lot of evidence gathering in Africa and other places, working with NGOs and working with ministers of health in those countries. So anyway, it's we're developing the evidence for present time. So our systems are simple and easy to use. We designed for abuse rather than use. Our technology was originally developed with DARPA, the Advanced Research Projects Agency for the military, U.S. military. So soldiers in the field can make their own chlorine. So these devices are, you can't see it very clearly, but the other pictures, but this is in Haiti. And this is a gentleman that we're training to use a little handheld device. And that's a very small device for a family or community of people, but we have much larger systems as well. So we have Wi-Fi connections and GPS location systems and a lot of our technology. So we can report the performance of the systems, but also how much chlorine they're being used in these remote areas. And solar options. So these things can be powered from just about any source. So we have these products from the little handheld unit, which is a 4-ounce handheld chlorinator. And it's, it'll do 300 liters on one charge. It says it per day here, but it's got a battery, rechargeable battery. The stream system is a briefcase type unit that makes about 5 liters of chlorine at 5,000 parts per million per hour. It'll treat 230,000 liters of water a day to drinking water standard. And then the AR series, the third one, is more of a light industrial for hospitals, and then the larger system on the right is more commercial scale. I'll show you examples of those in a second. But it's just salt, water, and electricity. It's the way chlorine has been used, and sodium hydroxide has been made worldwide since 1850 timeframe. At that time, they were primarily after the sodium hydroxide for the steel industry, and they threw the chlorine away. But it wasn't until 1900s that we began chlorinating. And pretty interesting stories about the evolution and use of chlorine and the risks that some people took to implement it. But the World Health Organization and CDC recommend 0.5% concentration for highly contaminated healthcare settings like Ebola, things like that. And that's 5,000 parts per million, 0.5, and it's less than 1% concentration, so it's inherently safe. The United States OSHA, EPA, they don't consider anything hazardous until it's over 1%. So all this stuff is inherently safe. You can put your hands in it, it won't hurt you. And it kills all classes of microorganisms, from virus, bacteria, and protozoa. So our systems maintain 5,000 parts per million, even if the saltwater solution is made wrong. And we have a flow-through technology, which is not a batch system. So there's some advantages to flow-through systems. So if you lose power, you're not having to start over like you do with a batch system. In our systems, it's making 5,000 as soon as you turn it on, it starts producing. So anything it does produce is 5,000. If the power goes out and comes back on later, when it starts back up, it's producing 5,000. So it's not you don't have to worry about power issues. You do have to worry about them because you're not producing chlorine, but it doesn't change the characteristics of the disinfectant. So anyway, it's pretty good technology. I've been doing this 25 years. So anyway, this little handheld device is solar powered, and it'll treat, you select the color for the volume that you want from 1, 2, 5, 10, or 20 liters. And there's millions of these 20-liter containers, 5-gallon containers worldwide that people use to carry water around. So this thing is designed to make a disinfectant dose to put in that volume to treat it to 2.5 parts per million. And so this technology has been evaluated by the World Health Organization. It's listed under the Household Water Treatment Scheme. It's been certified or tested against the US EPA microbiological water purifier standards, and it has to kill all classes of microorganisms at the dose that we're talking about under very heavily contaminated water. And that's 30 NTU, 5 degrees C, 9 pH, and and 10 TOC organics. very challenging water, and our device has to be able to kill all these microorganisms in that type of water. So it's got a solar panel on it, and you select the volume, push the button, hold it down, and it starts electrolyzing salt water that you put in that upper square chamber. So you're laying this thing flat, and in a few seconds, it makes a disinfectant. You put that disinfectant in the volume of water you have selected, and it automatically makes the right amount for that volume to dose at 2.5 milligrams per liter. So 300 liters, you can do 300 liters one after the other till the battery dies and recharge it. It's got a USB charging port on the bottom, and you can turn it over, and it's got a solar panel on the back to recharge it. So with 300 liters per charge, that's about 40 liters a day for a week before you have to recharge it. That's 50 weeks a year. 500 charges like your cell phone, that's 10 years. So after you have this device, you can make 40 liters of water safe every day for 10 years. And the price of salt to do that is one container, about 50 cents of salt per year to treat your water. So after somebody gets this device, they don't need anything else. And people ask, well, how much is it? We retail these devices in the outdoor stores and on our website for about $100. Because we don't have the distribution channel markups, we sell them to NGOs for about $50. So, and we'll do discount pricing for high volumes and stuff. So it's a pretty, when I began to realize what the technology could do for individuals, and in developing countries, they don't want or don't need a consumable in the sense of filters or chlorine tablets or buying bleach. Everybody has salt. So anywhere you can get salt, you can make your water safe. So, and the next device is the stream system. And this is more a briefcase type unit. You can put it under airplane seat or in the overhead. You can carry it around. It's portable. It operates on any power source, 110, 220, 12 volts DC from a car battery or a solar panel. And it makes chlorine continuously. And it's tolerant to people who may mix the brine solution wrong. Now, you can see in the picture on the right, there's two 5-gallon 20-liter buckets. The one on the left, you just fill with water and add salt to it, stir it, put the suction hose in that, put the other hose in the bucket on the right, turn on the system, and it converts that salt water in the left bucket to chlorine in the right bucket. So we don't sell the buckets with our devices because it's very expensive to ship air, the bucket around the world, and everybody has access to containers of some kind. And it doesn't make any difference what size container. We have some people that are using 55-gallon drums on the left and 55-gallon drums on the right. And these systems turn them on, as long as they've got power, they'll run. So we run them at 100% duty cycle, 24 hours a day. This picture is with Catholic League Services in Burkina Faso. And it's one of the hospitals. There's quite a few of them over there that we're working with PATH out of Seattle and Catholic League Services and World Vision to demonstrate this technology and introduce it to ministries of health in those countries. But we sold them into Japan and Southeast Asia and Korea and just lots of different places around the world. So, the AR series, Aqua Research, and the K series, which are the larger systems. The picture in the middle left is in Haiti. Now, that's a larger commercial system, and they use it to make and bottle up chlorine to distribute to 168 healthcare facilities throughout Haiti. This is under a USAID program. So this system that you see in the picture is in Lakai, Haiti. And Lakai is near the epicenter of the recent 7.2 earthquake. So we came back, the earthquake was on a Saturday morning. They came back in the office on Monday morning early and pushed the button, started this system that began, and it was producing the chlorine you see in the picture. So it's just very simple process, very reliable now that, we got 25 years under our belt developing this technology. We know how to do it to make it reliable. And it's used, the technology used in lots of different places in the world. You can use it in cooling towers. You can use it, like I say, in aquatics. You can use it anywhere where chlorine is used. And these systems, you plug them into Ethernet, and you can monitor them on your computer, on your cell phone. So we monitor these systems in Haiti from our offices here in Albuquerque. And going back to the stream system, we have incorporated GPS chips to identify where the device is at, as well as Wi-Fi. So the larger systems, you plug into Wi-Fi or into Ethernet connection. The stream system, a lot of these remote places do not have internet access. So they don't have Ethernet connection. In that system, we have an app on a cell phone where an operator or somebody gets near the system, they can connect up to it Wi-Fi. It'll download their location of that device and how much chlorine it has been producing over a period of time. Then when that person gets back to a major metropolitan area where they've got some kind of a Wi-Fi connection, they can download to a central database. For instance, World Vision or Catholic Relief Services can monitor production of chlorine without having to get people to document that manually. We also have a system on the left is the only device that we've got that is a filter-based system. And it's a 5-gallon, 20-liter jerry can, and it's got an air pump on the top left. And it's got an ultra filter in the bottom. And there are 4 levels of membrane filtration. These gravity filters that you see are microfilters. They do not remove virus, but they will gravity flow. The next level up in membrane filtration is ultra filter, and it's a 0.01 micron filter that removes virus, bacteria, protozoa, dirt, everything. So you can take water from a river, lake, stream, it doesn't make a difference, put it in this, remove that pump, fill it up with water, pump it up to about 10 strokes, 5 PSI or so. And on the left end, you can't see it, but there's a valve attached to the filter, what was laying horizontally in the bottom of this thing. You open that valve and out comes clean water. It's not disinfected, but it is instantly ready to drink. We are working on a system in the middle picture, which is a tank disinfection system. Now, there are millions of rooftop storage tanks, millions of rainwater collection tanks worldwide, and typically none of them are chlorinated. And so what we're doing is developing a little electrolytic chlorination module, solar powered, that would sit up on near the tank, make chlorine. And as the water level in the tank increases, it will add chlorine proportional to the water going into that tank. Very simple system, a lot of applications worldwide. Also have a carafe system we're working on, which makes 500 liters, will treat 500 liters of water in one batch. And it takes about 20, 30 minutes to make a batch. And again, it operates on any power source. But it's a tabletop thing about like the size of a coffee maker. So our generators are cost effective, reliable, and easy to use. We try to make them as tolerant to missteps as possible. We have YouTube videos on everything, every aspect of operation of any of these systems, O&M manuals, quick start guides, all of that type of thing. And, we design them for abuse rather than use. So we have a continuous flow system, and our target customers are healthcare service providers, water utilities, non-government organizations working in disasters in middle and low income countries, and also commercial industry. And our products are human-centered. Monitor and evaluate product acceptability. We're always looking for feedback so we can improve the products. We've done a lot of that in the last couple of years with some major NGOs in Africa. So we're working with a lot of big NGOs right now. Excuse me while I clear my throat here. So we're also looking for distributors in country. And we're working with a lot of organizations now, but we're trying to expand this business model throughout the world. So we're working with PATH. PATH is a $300 million NGO out of Seattle. And their job is to improve public health around the world. They're funded by Gates Foundation, Hilton Foundation, organizations like that. They've got a number of these systems in Africa, Ghana, Mozambique, Rwanda, Uganda, Burkina Faso, places like that. Aqua Institute is an organization working in a lot of places in Africa, putting in piped water systems and healthcare facilities. We're working with them to get this technology implemented. SWAP Kenya is an organization in Western Kenya that does a lot of work in healthcare facilities. And we're working with them to right now to show that this technology, there's some certain characteristics of the chemistry that allow this chlorine that's bottled up, it stays strong. It does not lose strength over, say, so it'll hold 5,000 parts per million for a very long time, much more than a purchased bleach. USAID, we're working with Caris Foundation in Haiti. We've been working down there a couple of years. We've got those large chlorine generators making chlorine. Cath Relief Services, operating in about 250 healthcare facilities in Africa and various places. And then World Vision in Africa as well, Rwanda to begin with. And then Denora is the world's largest electrochlorination company. But their focus is primarily commercial. They make the electrodes that go in these systems. And I was one of the founders of a company called Biox that Denora recently bought about 2 years ago. And I developed a full product line from handheld units to full size commercial chlorine generators that would make 500 kilograms of chlorine a day. That treats large cities. But anyway, so that's my background has been this for 25 years. So, all right, I'm an inventor. I've got another 25 years in the business. We've got another company called Aqua Membranes, which is a new way to make spiral wound membrane elements. We're working with some Henkel out of Germany and Micron Technology to implement this technology in their facilities. But that's another company. Both the companies are in the same facility here in Albuquerque. Bill Horan is one of our advisors. He was the president of Operation Blessing International for 16 years. Very can-do, get-it-done guy who goes out and responds to disasters. He's implemented a lot of our technology while he was president of Operation Blessing. He's retired now, but is an advisor. Chris Dunstan came to work with us about a little over a year ago. And he spent 25 years working and living in Africa and also in Bangladesh, places like that. So he's started his career in Peace Corps and then has done a lot of chlorination technologies in a lot of different places. He was recently with the Hilton Foundation for 7 years in charge of had a $50 million program to try to introduce chlorine in a lot of areas. So he's a public health official, and very well connected in the industry. Lois Warren she does all of our manufacturing and production and keeps all this stuff moving. Craig Beckman is the CEO of Aqua Membranes. I hired him about 3 or 4 years ago to run that company. But I met him when he was the CEO of Miox Corporation, which is one of the companies I helped found in 1994. And so very, very bright guy, knows electrochlorination technologies, just very good. So as we go into the future, we're commercializing our product line in various countries. Right now, we're working heavily in Africa. And we're trying to get expand our partnerships with NGOs, the big ones I've talked about and others. And we're supporting healthcare in a lot of places right now, as well as disinfection for drinking water. And we want to try to get the survivor. It's been tested to verify that the filter does indeed remove 6 log of bacteria, 4 log virus, and 3 log of protozoa. So we've done all the testing on it. We built a few of them to do field trials and stuff. So we're getting ready to launch that. And then we're working on the tank disinfection system and the carafe system, things like that. So that's the end of the presentation. Chlorination is what we do, and we try to make it easy and simple and low cost for people anywhere to do it. You're muted.
Thank you, Rodney.
Okay.
Wonderful. And you spoke at a very leisurely pace, but well, you've stuck to 20 minutes. Mary, do you want to say something before we invite Dr. Rao, who has spent nearly 15 or 16 years in interestingly, an American standards organization called Underwriter Labs, which is, I think, about 127 or 128 years old. And it just happens that their India office is in Bangalore. And so Dr. Rao used to be in that office and for about 15, 16 years, managed the water standards and such things for Underwriter Labs. His profile is sort of put by himself up there. He's made it very brief. I'll request one of our team at WOW to see if they can put the extended profile, Pallavi or Tejashree, someone please. Put up his extended profile so that they all understand where he comes from. While I will request Dr. Rao to see if he will respond to what Rodney Harrington presented after Mary Eggert speaks. Mary?
Yeah, well, I think the experts have said enough for us all to be able to dig in here, and I'll just turn it over to Dr. Rao. But thank you, Dr. Hari. Very nice to be hearing this and seeing the solutions. Thank you, Rodney.
Yeah, and maybe I will ask Dr. Raj Rajaram. Rao, you and I, we met in your office maybe 3 or 4 years ago, along with Manjunath, one of your younger officers. When I see your face, I suddenly recall that meeting. And I was coming in the capacity of the chairperson for the Indian Green Building Council in Karnataka. And we had a short chat. I don't even remember what that was about. Dr. Raj Rajaram, who is here, he's speaking from Chicago. He's been there in the United States for about 60 years. He will tell you that he's been an academician, but I can tell you that he's done some phenomenal work on ground, both on solid waste management and on water. And his years in India, early years in India, in his mid-20s, he left this country. He's worked in Bengal, in West Bengal. He's also worked in some parts of Andhra and such. Raj, can you speak for 1 or 2 minutes in response to what Rodney has said, given the Indian situation and the challenges here? Then we can have Dr. Rao respond.
Yeah, no, Rodney has come up with an excellent system which can be used worldwide, very simple to operate and maintain. And the thing is, there will be questions like Chandra has raised a few questions about safety and taste and all that. Again, these are things we have to address from every local standpoint. And there are solutions for these kinds of things. And the beauty of Rodney's system is that ensuring 0.5% chlorine at all times instead of increasing and decreasing. Because if you increase the dosage, people don't like the taste, and you are wasting chlorine. If you decrease it, it's not as effective. So having a system that is consistently delivering that much chlorine and disinfecting the water is so important. And these systems, there's turbid water, you can put a filtration system ahead of it and then use chlorination like we are doing in Kenya. The very turbid water was coming from the bore well. So we put a filtration system and then we use chlorination. And that community of 500 kids in a school was getting sick frequently. Now they are having clean water. And these things can be done, and local problems, we need innovators like Rodney and his team. And the way Rodney has put together people who have got the entrepreneurial experience plus with foundation experience where the funding will come from, this is interesting because that kind of a team, I have not seen people who are excellent entrepreneurs, but don't know how to tap into where the money is to deliver to the people who need it most. Rodney has done both of that. Hats off to Rodney. And, working with local entrepreneurs, we can localize this and make it available. And like Rodney said, target country is India. And there is so many locations where water contamination is a problem. And I see young kids whose lifespan is 5 to 10 years because they drink dirty water from the rivers. And that can be prevented easily. And we should see how we can do it working with Rodney's company. Thank you.
Rodney, let me add that, since you mentioned Africa and some extensive work you're doing there, that continent has 54 countries, and it's about 10 times India's size. It's about 30 million square kilometers, and yet has the same population, around 1.4 billion, that India has at 1/10 the landmass. So can you imagine the pressure on natural resources that India has got? China, the other part, has about 2.5 times our landmass. They are at 8.8 million square kilometers, and they have the same population that India has, 1.4 billion. Over to you, Mr. Rao. After you speak, I shall request Lalit Sharma to speak. He's from the Sehgal Foundation. Very inspiring work that they're doing, again, on clean access to drinking safe water and so on. Chandra, who is here, he's a familiar face for some of us. Indrani Pal, you will want to listen to both, all three of them, I would say, starting with Dr. Rao, then Lalit Sharma, and Watson Chandra. Watson Chandra, because he's from water sanitation, so he calls it that. His name is Chandrasekhar. Over to you, Dr. Rao.
Yeah, it's my pleasure to be part of this event. And first of all, I would like to thank Dr. Harry and Mary Eggert for giving me the opportunity to be part of this. And it was a wonderful products and also wonderful presentation by Rodney. But as I know, I was there for almost 30 years in the field of water treatment, and basically drinking water treatment, not much on wastewater, but point of use and point of entry, that type of purification, even swimming pool water treatment and all, I was aware of that. Then as all of you know that chlorine is the wonder disinfectant over very long years, and which has saved number of lives, and also saving now also. If you see in India, many of the places, municipal corporation use only chlorine, but in a different form. Like some people use solid chlorine, or like bleaching powder, or liquid chlorine, hypochlorite, or gaseous chlorine. Any of those things they use, but chlorine is the main disinfectant for communities, mainly into municipal water supply. Yeah, and the products what I could see is mainly in India for point of use, like for households, there is no such product available for water treatment. But chlorine alone may not do the work. It has to be a filtration system, sediment filtration, then carbon filtration, then disinfectant should be there. Otherwise, what happens is, suppose, as per my knowledge, if there are some organics, suppose amines are there, amines may form a chloramines, which are chlorination byproducts, which are cancer causing. So how do we eliminate those things if you directly chlorinate it? That is number one. And my another concern is BIS. I am also a member in standards committee in Bureau of Indian Standards. I contributed a lot for 16240. That is a standard recently made for reverse osmosis systems, like a standards development. Since I was working with UL, so I have a lot of exposure in that, and then I took a major in that. So in this area, like how do you control? Generally, as per BIS 10500 specification, it should be the desired limit. What they say is 0.2 ppm to 0.2 milligrams per liter. So if it is more than that, generally it gives some bad taste or odor. And also the chlorination byproducts, how do we eliminate? So these are the things. And one of the, in the presentation I saw, there is a report mentioned, that is bacteria 6-log reduction and virus 4-log reduction, but I could not see any protozoan reduction, which generally required is 3-log reduction. But he has already mentioned orally that it will remove 3-log reduction of protozoans. That's what was mentioned. So is there any certifications done for this type of, as someone already mentioned, what is the safety, because this is the electrical product. So CE marking must be there, maybe there already. But what about the water safety? Suppose when is it releasing any other, like sodium chloride, when we take any common salt, when we electrolyze, chlorine will be generated. What all other things will come, which how the effects of those things in that? Suppose if there is an iodinated resin, iodinated salt somebody takes, is there any effect of that? Because generally we use iodinated salts. So can we use that salt, and what happens to the iodine when we electrolyze? So these are the few of the questions, like queries I have. But in the future, then we can have a discussion. But these are the points I just wanted to mention.
Excellent.
Okay.
We will respond to Rodney. We'll respond to that.
Yes.
I have made some notes, and I will ask you, Rodney. While we shall move to Lalit Sharma, if you can unmute and speak and respond to Rodney's presentation, we will, sort of accumulate all responses and then ask Rodney to speak.
Thank you, Hari. It's really great you gave this opportunity speaking on this. It's an excellent presentation and excellent product line Rodney had presented. The question of Halamin or protozoa. In fact,
before you speak on it, sorry,
yeah,
it will help them all if you told them a little of what you're doing and the kind of reach and access, because then they will listen to you better.
Okay, sure. Basically, I'm a civil engineer by training, and after spending 22 years in construction industry, I volunteered for 2 years with Sahgal Foundation to set the division on water management. After 2 years, I was asked either I close down this section because demand is rising, or I join full time. So then, because I was enjoying this social development work, so I decided to enter into the sector, and now I'm 20 years old in this organization, working on these water management issues. I work on both resource development, resource augmentation, as well as means availability and quality aspects both. So we are doing a lot of mass level rainwater harvesting, and also we are working on drinking water quality issues also. We have innovated a few household point of use filtration systems like biosand filter technology, you all might be knowing, which was addressing 98.5% of the microbial contamination. So I redesigned that system. Instead of concrete shell, I redesigned it into the stainless steel shell, and it reduced the weight of this drastically. Instead of 78 kg, now it is just 4.5 kg. So the transportability of the system has been increased tremendously. I also integrated germicidal properties of copper into it. And with that, it reached up to 99.9% of removal, microbial removal.
How many such filtration systems have gone out? How many households? Please tell them. it will impact, and then you can respond to
Sure.
whatever Dr. Rao and Rodney said. Yes.
Sure. This prototype was developed finally in 2016 and December 2016. And since then, more than 10,000 filters has been installed. And I'm very happy to say that not even a single fallback is there. Every unit is being used. Because this system was costing around 3,000 rupees. So we thought even 3,000 rupees system, all the poorest of poor cannot afford. So then we developed, it was already developed, but we innovated further, the ceramic pot filter, which is being produced locally by the local potters in the villages. And now this system costs just 600 rupees. So in 600 rupees, they get microbial free water. At the same time, if iron contamination is there, turbidity is there, all is taken care of. So this is where I stopped to talk about what I did. So now responding to the presentation. In fact, the question about protozoa and element, yes, it is there. But if we follow the philosophy of water treatment, and it should be a multi-barrier approach to be followed. Multi-barrier approach contains first source protection, then sedimentation, filtration, and then the disinfection comes in picture. And if you follow that approach, there is no chance that protozoa or helminth comes after filtration. And once it is already removed, then there is no point of this. Now coming to the byproduct. Certainly, if concentration is high, then it can be there. But when you followed the multi-barrier approach, then you don't need that much of concentration of chlorine. Secondly, it is up to us whether we follow any standard thing or we derive our own concentration depending upon the situation. What is the pH? What is the clarity of water? What is the other things available in the water, interference? So your combined chlorine, your residual chlorine, your reactive chlorine, you can decide yourself. So the chances of this kind of thing, byproduct and all, can be eliminated. So this, I don't see it as a risk because we can adjust it. But I would also recommend that just making a blanket recommendation will not work. We have to work a little bit. Situation is specific, we need to work. Thank you.
You are saying that it has to be case to case and standards cannot be set. Is that what you're saying?
No, standards can be set, but when you say how much concentration of chlorine, residual concentration, you can decide on that.
Okay.
At the tail end, how much concentration you need. And even if you need more concentration because tail end is far away, then accordingly these things can be calibrated.
Okay. Let me acknowledge the presence of Vijay Sai Meka, who is the chairman of the chapter in Andhra Pradesh, he of the Indian Green Building Council. Namaste, Vijay. I will now turn to Chandra. I will turn to, yes, of course, Chandra. You know, in ways that you, yeah, thank you, Vijay. So Chandrasekhar, can you respond to what, Lalit has so nicely sort of captured, and you know what Rodney said. We'd like to hear your discerning view on it.
Exactly, Veto, what Lalit.
Your audio, please. Your audio is always a challenge.
No, is it okay now?
Yes.
Yeah. So I always veto what Lalit Sharma ji has been saying. We both sail the same boat because tailor-made water purification is the key word. You cannot have a standardization just like that. And again, as Dr. Rao observed here, chlorination cannot be standardized. Because again, I'll quote Lalit Sharma ji, who is a veteran in this field. We have copper-based add-ons, then nano materials based on titanium oxide, which is photocatalytic materials, which are embedded in part of the system, be it ceramic or the clay candle, what we do. These are all the nanoparticles which are now creating a big wave in the industry, that you embed it as part of the candle or part of the system, maybe a nano compound with the plastic material even now, or the silver nanoparticles along with the plastic molding. So this plastic is a part and parcel of the whole system. So chlorination is always a danger now, number one, as there are the other fallbacks of excess chlorine, and what does it do? The reactions with other elements in the water, which we don't know. Water is a very complex subject. And again, looking at the Indian context, it has to be tailor-made. There is no stand. In fact, standards are being revised again and again. There was this standard of TDS being quoted, and even went up to Supreme Court, where they were quoting up to 500. Now it has been erased, and we say up to 2000 TDS is allowed. I can quote an example in West Bengal, where high arsenic and high iron was there, and turbidity also was there. But surprisingly, in that water, there was no bacterial contamination at all. So why should we ever use it? So I remove iron, I remove arsenic, I clear the turbidity like using this ceramic or terraphil candles. Water is great. Only arsenic was the critical killer there. So completely understanding, it is like a doctor treating a patient. एक दवा नहीं चलता है, हर एक पेशेंट के लिए अलग अलग दवा. So it is individual medicine to individual patient. That same analogy applies to water here in India as well.
Since both of you have said, Chandra and Lalit, both of you are saying that at that point, at the localized level, this call has to be taken, and we can't have a fix-all solution. What does that mean in terms of training that we need to have at the local level in order to ensure that such discerning, shifts are made? How do we do that?
Now the government
you say,
yeah, I'll tell you now the government is focusing on point of testing. They are training women, they are training self-help groups in giving them small handheld kits, which we also do. We have done close to 200 people. This year we are planning to go close to 2,000 women, self-help group women in rural villages, who will be teach the simple titration.
I get that. I'm with you, Chandra, but 2,000 people, it's not even a drop. It's so small in a country of 1.5 billion people. And if I'm looking at Africa, and if I'm looking at what Rodney is doing, Rodney is going to say, hang on, if you guys are going to, look for, such shifts like a local doctor has got to bring in, where is scale for my product, is what Rodney Harrington is going to say. So Rodney, you got to respond to both these water experts who have worked for, between them, they have done a half a century. And if I add Dr. Rao's work, you're talking of collective experience of 80 years between these three gentlemen. How do you respond to this one challenge that they are putting before you of the non-scalability because of having to, ensure that some certain point of use decisions have to be made at the site?
Okay, so first, let me address the disinfection byproduct issue and the filtration. There are over 1 billion people on the planet who are getting water out of a creek, river, stream, and they're not making $1 a day. Okay, so I'm certainly not discounting filtration, okay, and removing dirt from the water. But I argue that it is more important to kill the bugs than it is to remove the dirt. You can eat the dirt, it won't kill you. The bugs are what kill you, okay? So our technology with just using salt in a little handheld chlorinator, for instance, if we target families, small communities, shall we say, to at least make the water microbiologically safe to drink. Now, when we started Myox Corporation in 1994, we did it here in the United States, selling that technology into municipal drinking water systems that had to comply with the US EPA regulations. So let me go back to the trihalomethane, haloacetic acid issue. We started chlorinating our water in 1908 in the United States. And we weren't able to detect a trihalomethane, didn't have the detection technology until the 70s. So we were treating people in the United States to trihalomethanes and haloacetic acids for 70 years before we even figured out what it was. And then we began doing the epidemiological studies to determine how to limit it. Initially, it was limited to 100 parts per billion. Now it's at 80 on trihalomethanes. So filtration, pre-oxidation in a municipal drinking water environment, you have to get the trihalomethanes down under, under 80 today, and the haloacetic acids under 60. I'm very familiar with all those because I've faced many issues in terms of disinfection byproducts. Another aspect of this is that we developed this technology for the military, and we optimized the chemistry to kill bugs. And one of the ways we did that is change the design of the electrodes and the power that's applied across them. And we're producing chlorine, but a very small amount of peroxide. And so this mixed oxidant technology, the peroxide component is an oxygen-based component, and it does not produce the chlorinated byproducts. So we typically see 30% less of the trihalomethanes and haloacetic acids. Now, in our little point of use device, we are not focusing on trihalomethanes and the cancer-causing aspects. So if you can get the trihalomethanes down below the regulatory limit, you might impact somebody's life, epidemiologically speaking, for maybe a week or two of their life, shorten their lifespan by that much on a large population. But if you don't remove the microbes from the water, you can kill somebody in a week. And in the earthquake in Haiti, for instance, subsequent to that earthquake, 10,000 people died from cholera. That's just a bug in the water. If you can chlorinate that water, you would have eliminated 10,000 deaths. Today, Yemen is experiencing one of the highest cholera outbreaks in history. And so I argue that chlorination is far more important than at that type of a setting, low income, very low income setting, far more important to kill the bugs than to worry about the trihalomethanes. Believe me, I have fought the trihalomethane issue in drinking water systems in the United States for many years. I know all the details behind it, but that's not the focus of our little H2Go. And our stream system primarily is used for sanitation and healthcare facilities. You can use it in drinking water. I mean, so I'm very familiar with the issues associated with disinfection byproducts. I do agree that biosand filters are a great device. They're very low cost. They're very good at removing bugs and so forth. They get the water clean, but they don't maintain a chlorine residual in the finished water. So somebody can take that water, put it in a container, and a lot of these containers are dirty. You put a chlorination or disinfection in it, you make the water safe. So we're trying to make the water microbiologically safe for anybody all the way down the pyramid. Now, our device is also called a purifier, and that's a legal term. In the United States, you cannot call a device a purifier unless it meets the NSFP 231 requirement. And that was taken from the EPA's microbiological water purifier standard. And we have to demonstrate with evidence, and we use PCR techniques when we do all these bug studies, that we kill 6 log bacteria, 4 log virus, and 3 log protozoa. And the protozoa we use is the worst case, is Cryptosporidium. I mean, Giardia is easy to kill, quite frankly, for our mixed oxidant technology. Cryptosporidium does take longer, I admit. You have to maintain a chlorine residual on the water for 4 hours with crypto to kill 3 log. Now you can get 2 log very quick, but to meet the APA requirement of 3 log, it takes 4 hours of residence time with the chlorine. But most people aren't worried about this. They're worried about Giardia. They're worried about bacteria, typhoid and cholera. So anyway, I'm very familiar with all the issues associated with the byproducts. And again, regarding the dose, the 2.5 ppm dose, we have to put that dose in there in order to kill bugs and beat the EPA requirement. So the residual value of chlorine in the finished water is a function of the oxidant demand of the water. And we understand the chlorination taste issue worldwide, but, in Haiti, for instance, they weren't necessarily chlorinating their water before the earthquake, but there was a major campaign, and there needs to be a major campaign worldwide to explain the importance of chlorination. So I admit that I'm facing an uphill battle on the chlorine taste issue, but we have to put that much chlorine in the EPA's worst case water to be able to kill all the bugs that we're talking about. So, and again, conditions we have to treat against are 9 pH, very high and bad for chlorine. We have to test at 5 degrees C, very bad for chlorine, it's cold. We have to 30 NTU turbidity. You can't see the end of your finger in the water in 30 NTU turbidity. And the other is 10 TOC organics. That's organic material that is very chlorine consuming. You put all those components in the water and we have to kill all those levels to meet the EPA, the NSFP 231 standard, which is the EPA baseline standard. So I'm very familiar with all those issues. If you're talking about putting chlorination in a city somewhere to meet the trihalomethanes, I can do all that. We know how to do all that stuff with filtration. Done it in many cases, but my focus is on saving lives at the bottom of the pyramid. And I think
if I were to got that, Rodney. If I would say, we have another, say, 10, 12 minutes, and we need to have all of you, all 4 of you, talk about how chlorination, needs to be adopted on far larger scale, along with other point of views, treatment systems in India first, since we are speaking from the Indian context, and of course, in Africa or in China and so on. But before I do that, would you want, Rodney, can I understand from all that you said that, the challenge of the finer challenge, shall we say, of what Lalit Sharma and Chandra said on knowing pH balance, knowing turbidity and such before we, establish the chlorine dosage is not as important as debugging water, shall we say. Is that what you're saying in some ways? You have to unmute.
I'm saying we have to use 2.5 ppm dose because we have to treat the EPA type 2 water. Type 2 water is drinking water. Or type 1 water is drinking water. It's clean. That's not a problem. What we have to be able to do is put enough dose in there to treat and kill bugs of the worst case water. And so we're faced with water of all types. I mean, rainwater that's reasonably clean to dirty river water that's got a lot of turbidity and stuff in it, high organics. But so that is the basis for our dosing strategy, is that we have to cover the waterfront, so to speak, all different types of water. So in pristine well water where there's no oxidant demand, the water is going to have about a 2.5 ppm residual chlorine value in it. So that's just the nature of the beast, to try to come up with a technology that applies to everything. Whereas in a drinking water system in a city, you can fine tune it down to 0.2,
Right. Rodney, by your clock, it's 6:45 a.m. We have another 15 minutes, shall we say. Between Lalit, Dr. Rao, Chandra, 3 of you, can you sort of educate this very discerning group as to what we need to do between Global Water Works there and WOW to see that the work that you are doing at Sehgal Foundation or Chandra is doing at Watsan, sort of expands into many more regions. We have Vijay Meka, who has influence and reach, I can tell you that. And if he sees, excitement in what you're talking about, maybe he will take it into other places. And TNBV Rao also has such reach and influence. So between the two of you, Lalit Sharma and Chandra, can you tell us what you think we can do to take this forward from here as a group, as an action group?
Chandra,
One of you.
I can just comment on one thing. The handheld instrument was too good. Maybe if we need it in some place, maybe that could be given as part of the water filter system. You cannot price it separately. Suppose I give Watson filter or maybe Lalit Sharma's filter, we can make it part of the kit as an optional add-on. Okay, we say this is available so that you can disinfect, and that could be made as part of the system. That's what immediately comes into my mind.
By the way, Lalit Sharma, you will see the profile of Chandra's. He has done about 300,000 households with a filtration system which costs approximately 1,200 to 1,500 rupees. Interestingly, you are talking at 600 rupees today, right? Can you respond to Chandra now, please?
in fact, I
You're
would say
talking about,
I'm not just what Rodney had presented. It's an excellent technology. Just I'm putting a rider, a small experimentation. If we add that with this, I think that will be tremendous. And it needs nothing, just 5 containers and a residual chlorine testing. Very
Lovely.
simple thing.
Correct.
It can be.
And would you also agree with what Chandrasekhar said, that it can't be at an add-on cost? It has to be sort of structured into what you have got. While you might want to, talk to Rodney in a way that you can acquire that and make it a subset of your filtration system.
No,
Chandra is very nodding vigorously. Yeah.
in fact, it can be anyway. It all depends what is the situation where we are working. Like Rodney said, if we are into an emergency situation, only Rodney's product will be good enough. But
Right.
if long exposure of this byproduct or these things are there, then we have to take care of. So I'm not advocating for any kind of technology, but yes, depending upon the situation, we need to select different options.
You can reduce the dosage if necessary, you're saying.
Yeah.
yeah, if you're maintaining a chlorine residual and you're able to monitor trihalomethanes and all that in a regulated environment, in the US, any community over 25 people served has to comply with the EPA regulations, including trihalomethanes and chlorine residual and all of the rest. If that, and we can support that with chlorination systems. We have large enough systems to treat cities. So we can be a part of that, but our handheld small devices are trying to save lives by killing bugs. And we don't care, okay, but they're drinking that water now. They're drinking it now with no treatment,
Yeah.
So, and there is no cheaper way to make your water safe than this technology.
One quick question to Dr. Rajaram, maybe because he has great experience in the research part as well. Can you dope it in some form so that it releases only the required chlorine every time? Can you dope it and make it just immerse in the water instead of just using this liquid chlorine methodology? Because again, electricity, battery, all these things are a big problem. Because we have silver oxide solutions, we have like graphene oxide, put in the chat box. We have now various like copper, like what Lalit Sharma said. Small nanometers are doing wonders. They are also doing the job of killing the pathogens. But if you have some dosing method, you just put the tablet into it with a lifetime of say 1 year or 2 years or something like that. After it changes color or something like that, you take away the tablet or maybe something like that. It's just out of the box thinking. But this will be easier to distribute to people. Just give it in a tablet form, just put it inside and it only releases requisite doses of chlorine. That could be a great way instead of putting in an instrument, because they don't maintain the filter as well. Like biosand filter, they have to clean it periodically, dry all the material, refurbish. They are not going to do that. That is why we came out with the compact candle so that it can do the job. Even there, they break the nut and washer and they come back and ask me, sir, we have broken, can you replace it? Even after 8 years, I am replacing nut and washer. Even though my courier cost is more, but the need for the man, we have to do it as a social entrepreneur, we do it. So there are these type of interviewing problems in terms of maintenance or maintaining any gadget. So can you quickly answer on that, sir?
Indra, one thing I want to say is, I have seen people in Delhi area, the poorest of the poor, drinking Yamuna water directly from Yamuna. And we are putting our sewage from Delhi, from all cities, 17 nalas in Delhi reach the Yamuna with very little treatment. So those kinds of people who are dying, their productivity is reducing. Those people first need, they don't think of triethymethylenes, all those things. They think of, am I going to die tomorrow? And I've seen kids with a distended belly at age 5, 6, drinking that Yamuna water directly.
Exactly.
So we have to give solutions to those kinds of masses of people who don't have clean water and they're dying because of the bugs. So Rodney's system has an application in many parts of India. In other parts of India, we have to fine tune it. You and Lalit, and there are so many other experts in India who can fine tune the system. But essentially, the system is, easy to transport, easy to use, can be subsidized easily by, the government for poorest of the poor communities. And that is where I think the use is.
Yes,
Rodney, I will. Yes, Dr. Rao, please.
Yeah, I do agree. Actually, we need to think how these products are excellent products. So how to use those products in Indian context. So if I see like a point of use, if you say, it may be very difficult bottom of the pyramid if the people are not educated. The electrolysis process, keeping the things and all, it will be little difficult. But I could see good like use in overhead tanks where communities like villages where there is a overhead tank where the water is supplied through overhead tank, but this is not actually treated. So those areas, this will be an excellent product, I could see.
Rodney, before you respond, Rodney, we have another 5 minutes.
Okay.
The context is this: about 1/3 of India, every third Indian, 400 million people, therefore, live in villages which are not even villages. They're called chanis, and they are settlements which will have probably 600 to 800 people, sometimes tribal settlements. And there are people I know, kids who are 12, 14, 15 years, who have not seen a bus in their lives in such places, which are completely disconnected from the rest of civilization, shall we say. Now, 400 million, India has about 120 million people who come under the category of scheduled tribes, right? Chandra is, working in one area of northern Andhra, shall we say, where he's working with a tribal community and seeing what he can do to give them point of view water treatment systems. So the problem for us, as he said rightly, is we have no electricity there. Where do I charge my batteries? Where do I even buy a battery? This is our big problem. This is a big problem for 1/3 of Indians. Over to you, Rodney. Solar, I know, I understand that.
Yeah, I mean, we've got this technology here, and we're working on the next one, which is, about half the price. So we can get, and if we can avoid, quite frankly, we make these in China, and if we're importing them in the US, we have the tariffs, If we're exporting those directly to India or places like that, we can reduce the cost. We'll build them in India. Certainly got the capability of this technology. We can build them there. So we're looking for ways to expand this technology base, get it out there, save some lives with this technology. I know we're saving lives. I can't give you their names, but hopefully we're doing some good in trying to get this technology.
There you go, Chandra. Here is another man saying, why did you make it in India? Now we have 3 minutes. Mary Eggert. Here are 4 people, 3 of whom, one of whom is a standards maker, TNVV Rao. We have 2 champions who are reaching out to many. Seriously, I'm saying this, at least 4 to 5 million Indians between Lalit Sharma and Chandra. They're doing some phenomenal, Saigal Foundation is doing some phenomenal work, I can tell you that. How do we get to bringing the same synergy between Rodney's inspiring work and what these people can do to connect on the ground? Mary Eggert.
Yeah, well, I think I have learned so much from you all and just really appreciate knowing of solutions. That's what we're all about here. And Dr. Hari, we thank you for focusing on actionable efforts. What you are doing already in the field, gentlemen, is just to be commended. You're saving lives. And I love the line about, the water professionals save more lives than doctors. But I have the pleasure of working with an individual who helped advance the computer and technology industry, creating one of the largest distributors of computing technology. I believe it's a $40 billion effort, Ingram Micro. And I'd like to just turn it over to Frank because he's an ultimate connector. And how do we accelerate these efforts? And so, Frank, if you could just add your thoughts on how we do this to solve the global water challenge in this generation with these amazing solutions.
Thank you, Mary. We have a minute. It's been a fabulous session, Rodney. Thank you so much, and everyone else for their contributions to this. So I think, and Hari, I think that you hit on it. Rodney, you supported it. I think one of the things that we need to do to add to the Tech Talks is to bring in some manufacturing people, because in the last 2 sessions, we have said we can manufacture these, or we should manufacture these in India. And that kind of triples down on all the benefits, because people get pure drinking water. That all the benefits there, plus we can, work on, employing people and in country. So without, this has been great. I don't want to hold it up. But I think we should put that on our calendar in the future to bring to see how we can bring manufacturing people in to develop manufacturing in India for a number of these technologies. And certainly Rodney, with his experience in starting, developing, nurturing, growing companies that have been successful, he is a great place to start with that, because certainly he has the know-how. Anyway, thank you so much, Mary. You put this together. This is fantastic.
Yeah, Frank and Mary, I think the 3 of us should do a chat. Chandra is outgunning every one of us. He's already put a little note on the chat box saying, hey, I can work on an MOU and so on with Rodney. So what we should do, Frank and Mary, is that we have a chat first and then see how we can bring this larger context, because Saigal Foundation is doing a great deal of work with a leader like Lalit Sharma there. So let's see how we bring this in a way that truly the engineers without borders kind of spirit is brought to what we will do with what TechTalk 3 presented, TechTalk 4, and this one. I can see that all 3 need to be brought to play in a certain sense, Mary. Frank understands that, as you rightly said. We'll take it back. Indrani, I know we are about 1 minute behind. I mean, we are 91 minutes now. But if you do want to say, because this is your first time here, you are from Colombia, you bring a fantastic methodology. We want to listen to you on your take on today's conversation.
It was fascinating, Hari. I learned so much too. Like I second Mary. This was fascinating. I loved how people debated on this issue, but behind all that is the passion to make changes, right, and to save lives. Water is our life. coming back to the local actions and understanding what's happening locally and understanding and connecting with local champions and really bringing in global efforts locally that needs local champions, for example, like Watson, Chandra, Lalitji, and so far. I'm so much energized this morning. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Lovely. Dave Shackleton, good afternoon again to you. I know you're from, to the rest of you all, I must remind you that he's from South Africa. Dave, do you have anything to add? Since, the African presence looms large north of you. From Uganda, East Africa, to all those wonderful parts of West Africa, which desperately need solutions, shall we say, in water. Dave.
Yeah, agreed. I think the point that Rodney was making about, there are some people whose access to water is so limited that, just the bacteria and immediate needs are what are most important. And things like TTHMs and haloacetic acids and so on are far from their mind. So, there are so many different solutions, and there's a place for all of them. I think, that's a big part of it. If you're operating a big municipal water purification plant and you distribute it to millions and you've got sophisticated infrastructure, then TTHMs and things like that, they're important. But there are a lot of people in this world, like you say, that are dying from things like cholera and so on, and they don't, unfortunately, they aren't going to be around long enough to worry about that, as Rodney says, if you don't get control of the bacteria. Yeah. The pathogens. There's no one solution.
There's a lot of different solutions. There's no question. We're just trying to address one aspect of it with those small systems. But with the larger systems, we'll play in the big trialomethane control schemes and done a lot of that. So anyway. And Mary, I assume I've seen some chats and people asking questions and wanting to connect. Can I get a copy of what's in the chat? Or
yeah, I've saved
you
it.
will get that. We will ensure that. Yeah, we will send that to you. One of you there, Pallavi or Tejasri or Crore, see how you can capture the stuff on chat box. Send it to all of these leaders, please, or I will help you coordinate that. All of them can work on this. And I'm very glad to see that there are, 5 women here, is it? You're very nearly outnumbering these blessed guys, the men now. And water and men, very, very critical. It's because the intuitive understanding that you all bring, I think it's a blessing of nature to be a woman, is, I think, also important to this larger process. We have Ushakini, we have Pallavi, we have Tejasri, we have another Sneha, Mary. It's nice to have, and of course, Indrani, So you have, with all that, I think we have got a great, again, look at this, Mary. We have look at the quality of discussion today. I'm amazed at what we are getting, thanks to all these wonderful people. And Lalit Sharma enhanced clearly the quality of this evening's or this morning's discussion or this afternoon's discussion, depending upon where you are. 95 minutes. I think we should close. All good things have to come to an end. It's a fantastic session. I'd love to do this for another hour, but I think we got to close. We will meet again. If all of you want to come in for the following Saturday session, again at 6 p.m. India time, we will send you the invite. But the TechTalk session will be, the trilogy ends with the third one coming up on December 10th. We'll be skipping the Thanksgiving weekend, and we'll see how we will continue this conversation. And Mary, we must see that, all the presenters in the trilogy session so far are present in trilogy 3, because then we will know how to bind the story, how to build the story in the ways that people like Chandra, people like Lalit Sharma and others in India, maybe Dave Shackleton coming from his context in South Africa, can all sort of put this together. Indrani and Mary and me, we have a conversation. And Indrani, like I wrote to you, we need that trained methodology to be put into place for a few things that Mary and I are conspiring upon to see that we bring some good to the world. Okay, 97 minutes. I think we must close. Thanks a lot for being with us today. Yeah.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you. Thanks all of you.
Yeah.
Global
Thank you so
Waterworks,
much. Thank you,
appreciate
Rodney.
it.
Thanks
Okay,
all of
thank
you.
you.
Great seeing,
Okay.
great seeing everybody.
I look
Great
forward to
day.
connecting. All right.
More to
Thank you.
come. Yep.
Thank you.